This month on Focus Black Oklahoma, join us as we discuss the national organization working to confront pancreatic cancer.
Hear how homelessness disproportionately affects queer youth in the United States.
Continue our coverage of the recently unveiled Clara Luper statue in Oklahoma City.
And understand the work, sacrifices, and rewards of college athletics. All of this and more on Focus Black Oklahoma.
Focus Black Oklahoma is sponsored by the Black Church Traditions and African American Faith Life program at Phillips Seminary, offering a master's degree in social justice online and in person. Learn more at wherefaithleads.com.
This is Focus Black Oklahoma. I'm Jacob Littlebear.
And I'm Dr. Autumn Brown. A 2016 study published in the Journal of the Oklahoma State Medical Association found that pancreatic cancer was the fourth most common cause of cancer death in Oklahoma from 2008 to 2012. Not only is it one of the most deadly forms of cancer, it affects Black Americans at a higher rate. One organization has been leading the fight against pancreatic cancer for more than 25 years. Zaakirah Muhammad has details.
According to the National Health Institute's Surveillance, Epidemiology, and End Results Program, also known as SEER, Black Americans have a higher incidence rate of pancreatic cancer with a staggering 17%. Despite advances in medical science, there are no routine screenings. Symptoms, when they appear, are often vague. For two families separated by decades in distance, this reality became clear. The Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, or PanCAN, based in El Segundo, California, is a leader in research and advocacy. Since its founding in 1999, PanCAN has invested over $250 million into understanding the disease, developing new diagnostic tools, and supporting patients and families. Here's Dr. Allison Rosenzweig, PhD, Director of Scientific Research and Communication at the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network.
There's several reasons that pancreatic cancer is often diagnosed at a late stage. One is that it doesn't tend to cause symptoms until the disease is pretty advanced. The cancer is pretty rare and the pancreas is located very deep in the body, so it's very difficult to test, and there's very specialized imaging tests that are necessary to diagnose it. And there isn't a reason to do those tests on the general population. So you know your own body better than anybody else. And so if you have a symptom that is persistent, that you don't have another explanation for, I think it is really important to go see your doctor. And if it is the specific symptoms of weight loss, changes in stool, digestive problems, pain in the back or abdomen, I think it is important to mention pancreatic cancer and just put that on the doctor's radar. This is especially important for people who may have a family history of pancreatic cancer. And then I guess the more common symptom that actually does get people to the doctor is jaundice, which is when your skin and the whites of your eyes can turn yellow. And that often happens when the tumor is pushing on the bile duct, and that can be a sign of more advanced disease. But that's often what actually gets people to the doctor. So our hope is for people to go see that doctor and get some tests done before it gets to the point of causing jaundice.
Washington, D.C.-based wellness facilitator Nadja Walker hosts retreats for Black women. In May 2022, she noticed something unusual about her mother's eyes. They had turned yellow. Her mother dismissed it as a side effect of iron pills. Days later, while Nadja was in Puerto Rico, her sister rushed their mother to the hospital. The diagnosis came swiftly and without warning: stage 4 pancreatic cancer with only 5 months to live. Nadja shares her mother's backstory.
She had been on pain medication since I was 15 years old. We just thought it was, her normal going in, her pain stuff or whatever. And I was like, cancer? She had always been going to the doctor. I don't understand how this, how we just know from her not feeling well from this visit.
Emily Taylor Snell, a retired educator and coordinator for the Deafblind Initiative based in Zephyrhills, Florida, went back home to Los Angeles for the holidays. On December 26, 1996, she watched her mother celebrate what seemed like a health victory. She was losing weight, something she'd been trying to do for years. But everything changed. Her mother fell ill, unable to keep food down. By mid-January, she received a stage 4 pancreatic cancer diagnosis. Emily's mother had been seeing the same general practitioner for over 20 years. She complained of stomach pain months prior, but it was dismissed. No relevant tests were ordered. By the time the cancer was discovered, treatment options were limited to palliative care. Emily's mother survived 9 months, from diagnosis to death. Emily shared the difficulty in receiving the limited options after prognosis.
By the middle of January, she got the diagnosis that she had pancreatic cancer. It was kind of hard to digest and I think either understand and accept that she had been so healthy and doing all the right things that she gets this diagnosis that is basically a death sentence, saying the most they could do is palliative care. She could opt in for doing some treatments. She did too. And she continued to get weaker and weaker. She ended up having a surgery at the end of January just to kind of allow her to be able to eat.
Walker recalled the frustration of waiting weeks for basic tests while her mother's condition deteriorated.
They kept saying we can't really know for sure until we do tests what it is, but it really looks like it's pancreatic cancer. They had to do a CAT scan. It took forever for them to get the CAT scan scheduled. She didn't even get it while she was in the hospital. She was in the hospital for about 3 to 5 days in the hospital. Couldn't get the CAT scan. They kept saying that we needed to speak with our oncologist. We took her to an inpatient facility where she got the CAT scans and the MRIs. And they had diagnosed her with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, said she couldn't get any of the surgeries. They also told her she needed to go to see her primary care physician.
Nadja remembers a particularly painful moment, being told by a healthcare worker that the only way to get her mother into hospice care was to take her to the hospital and not respond when they called. It worked, but according to Nadja,
my mom overheard the conversation, and she said, "That's what I want y'all to do." She was also taking some type of supplement that made her have bowel movements. And so when I came into my sister's house, I heard my mom screaming. I helped her off the floor. I called my sister. We cleaned her up. And she said to us, "Please take me to the hospital and leave me there so I can get into hospice." And so we didn't want to do it, but we knew that my mom was in pain and we weren't getting the help that we wanted. So we took her to the hospital. She already knew what the plan was. When they called us, we didn't answer. My mom had already knew to tell them which hospice she wanted to go to, that she had an application in. And within 2 days, my mom was in hospice in that place.
After her mother's death, Nadja began hearing similar stories everywhere. Friends, acquaintances, people in her community all had lost someone to this disease. Both Nadja and Emily's families found themselves thrust into the roles of caregivers, navigating a maze of medical appointments, insurance barriers, and impossible decisions. Nadja talked about the decision for her sister to take in their mother.
We had made a decision that she would go to stay at my sister's house because she had a bigger place. Both of us work full time, so we were just trying to figure all of that out. My mom was on Medicaid. She's been on Medicaid forever. Trying to pay for her meds. It was some Medicaid help with some of her prescriptions. Having to rotate shifts to check on her and make sure she was okay, make sure she was eating her food.
Emily shared the decision behind taking a leave of absence from work in Ohio to care for her mother in Southern California. Her sister was already living in San Diego.
I was living in Ohio at the time, and I ended up taking a leave of absence from my work so that I could find a caretaker. My younger sister lived in San Diego. She helped to provide some of the financial support, and she would come up when she could.
Nadja and Emily's families believed they tried everything. Holistic naturopathic doctors, Chinese herbal soups, sharp cardiology peers, support groups. In 1997, without the internet, finding information in alternative felt like searching in the dark. Emily found out a celebrity, Patrick Swayze, had gone through the same thing.
It really kind of got us when we found out that Patrick Swayze was also battling pancreatic cancer. What it was for my mom is it showed we could do everything right, and this cruel disease can still come upon you. And all you can do is hang on, fight as long as you can. My suggestion is always get a second opinion, especially if it's not working and they can't find out what's going wrong. So I think a second opinion is always important. And the other part is just to try to pull from the friends and families that you have for support. And for us, it was also important to reach out to a group like the American Cancer Society, where it went outside of just our family group, so you could see it wasn't just you going through it. That helped us to gain some strength and some different things to look toward and to try.
According to Dr. Rosenzweig, community involvement is key to awareness and funds, while advocacy efforts push for continued research funding at the national level. PanCan offers a range of support services from clinical trial research to nutritional advice and psychosocial care. Their patient services team provides guidance for caregivers and healthcare providers alike. PanCan's annual Purple Stride Walk also does just that. Here's Dr. Rosenzweig.
We host an annual 5K walk known as Purple Stride, and it takes place, I think, more than 50 locations around the country, all on the same day. It'll be on April 25th, 2026. It's a really hopeful, energetic, joyful event that brings people together to raise awareness, to raise funds. Everything that PanCan does is funded from the private space, from generous donors and foundations and families. So we're very grateful, obviously, to that. We also have a very strong advocacy program that people will either go physically to Capitol Hill or call their representatives or email, especially in the current federal funding climate is very uncertain. And we want to make sure that researchers are able to continue their work uninterrupted and, make sure we get these breakthroughs coming as quickly as we can. So PanCan does a lot of work on advocacy, and that's truly a grassroots effort. That's community members around the country speaking to their representatives and ensuring that cancer research as a whole and pancreatic cancer research continues to be a priority. PanCan has an amazing patient services team. People can call in if they're concerned about the risk of pancreatic cancer, if they're newly diagnosed, if they're really anywhere in the journey, caregivers, patients themselves, healthcare providers as well. We provide information about people who see and treat a high volume of pancreatic cancer patients throughout the country. We can do a personalized clinical trial search to see if there's any clinical trials that the patient might be eligible for. We can facilitate getting biomarker or genetic testing to help make sure that patient gets connected to treatments that might be most likely to benefit them, people concerned about their risk. We also have access resources about psychosocial care, diet and nutrition, end-of-life care, really a lot of things. And I'm very quick if anyone lets me know that someone they know or love has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. I'm always directing them to our patient services team. They're really fabulous.
Nadja Walker emphasizes the same message. Listen to your body. Early detection makes all the difference in the fight against pancreatic cancer. Don't let symptoms such as stomach pain be dismissed.
Make sure you're getting your annual checkups. If there is something that is bothering you in your stomach, make sure you go see whatever type of specialist that you need to try to catch it. Early detection for any cancers or any, critical illnesses are important.
Emily and Nadja's mothers are gone, but their stories remain a call to action for more research, earlier detection, and a healthcare system that listens when patients say something is wrong. For more information, resources, or to get involved, visit pancan.org. That's PANCAN.org. For Focus, Black Oklahoma, I'm Zaakirah Muhammad in Atlanta, Georgia.
In communities across Oklahoma, far too many young people are facing nights without a safe place to sleep. For queer youth, the risk of homelessness is even greater, driven by family rejection, discrimination, and a shortage of supportive services. This isn't just a statistic. It's a crisis that affects real kids in our neighborhoods. Anna Wilson shines a light on queer youth homelessness right here in Oklahoma.
On any given night in Tulsa, hundreds of young people don't know where they'll sleep. And for many unhoused youth, the challenge isn't only shelter, it's also belonging. Youth homelessness continues to be a pressing issue across the United States. According to youth.gov, numbers show that 4.2 million youth and young adults experience homelessness within the U.S. each year. In Oklahoma, statistics suggest that youth homelessness has grown over 61% between 2021 and 2024. A study from Chapin Hall of the University of Chicago reveals that queer and transgender youth are disproportionately represented, making up about 40% of unhoused young people, far higher than their share of the overall youth population. And here in Tulsa, outreach workers say the same pattern holds true, often driven by family rejection, discrimination, or a lack of affirming shelters. This past November, the city of Tulsa launched a new effort called Safe Move Tulsa, a public-private partnership backed by roughly $10 million in first-year funding, designed to move people from street encampments into housing and intensive support. The program reports its first success, 25 individuals placed into housing with a goal of 300 in the next 9 months. While initiatives like this one are major steps forward, those working directly with unhoused youth, especially LGBTQ+ youth, show that housing is only one part of what these young people need. Here is Carolyn Olson, Associate Director of Community Relations and Communications at Youth Services of Tulsa, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting young people in need ages 12 to 24.
If we don't have something available at that moment, which is typical, we would work with youth to kind of help figure out options. So try to find a place at a shelter like the Day Center or Salvation Army, John 3:16. Try to figure out alternatives. And really, a lot of those youth do end up coming to our drop-in center every day. So making sure that we can support them in that process, things like helping them get primary documents, birth certificates. I know we helped a client get a real ID a while ago, and he was so excited. He felt like a real person with his real ID. And it's like somebody who had never had an ID before. And he's like, wow, this is amazing. And it's just like that tiny little thing. But it's also, they come, a lot of those young people come every day, and that's their community. And for a lot of those young people, they may not have ever had that before.
Youth Services of Tulsa, known as YST, provides emergency shelter, transitional housing, a youth drop-in center, and street outreach services to young people in need across the Tulsa area, with a strong commitment to creating safe, affirming spaces for LGBTQ+ youth. In addition to YST, Black Queer Tulsa operates a drop-in center for LGBTQ+ youth ages 16 to 24, offering housing referrals, case management, and access to necessities in an affirming environment. With only 2 programs in Tulsa providing direct shelter and housing support for LGBTQ+ youth, young people are oftentimes forced to choose between unsafe shelters, sleeping outside, or other temporary arrangements that might offer little stability or safety.
The truth of the matter is that a lot of our young people who are unhoused don't feel comfortable in shelters. Typically, young people are preyed upon in shelters and by older adults who are a bit more experienced, if you will. Our 18, 19-year-olds experiencing homelessness don't have those street smarts yet. So they would rather stay in a tent, whether that's by themselves or in a little community that they formed, rather than go to the shelter and risk that. And unfortunately, going into the shelter as an unhoused 19-year-old presents a risk. As a 19-year-old LGBTQ identifying youth presents, I don't even know what the risk factors are, but they're higher, and it's just like that they unfortunately get preyed on very quickly. And so a lot of those young people would rather be out in -10 in a tent and sleeping bag and just try to make it.
The urgent need for a welcoming place shapes how YST approaches their work, starting with creating spaces where young people of all identities feel safe enough to walk through their door. Again, here's Olson.
Nationally, the percentage of young people and people experiencing homelessness in general who identify as LGBTQ is massive. And I think particularly here in Tulsa, one thing that we see is, youth who are, 18 years old, 17, 18 years old who get kicked out of home if they identify as LGBTQ, who have nowhere to go, who have no support system, who are out on the streets for the first time. So as you can imagine, that's harsh for anybody, but particularly being kind of identifying as LGBTQ and also on the streets and trying to survive. It's a lot for young people. It causes a lot of kind of, trauma and enhances trauma that's already there. The LGBTQ team that we have is amazing at providing support as needed. For example, I know that there have been instances where there have been young people in our shelter who have identified as LGBTQ, and our program staff would go there, like just drop everything and go there every single day and just provide them with support, talk through things. I know they've helped kind of mediate family conflicts where parents might not have been as accepting. I know our program staff are incredible at just providing that just safe set of hands, but also, these are people with lived experience. They've navigated a lot of these challenges themselves, both with parents, families, but also with peers. So they really are there to kind of help support and counsel those young people.
Youth homelessness is often very different for everyone. Yet, when you ask young people directly what needs to change, many give strikingly similar answers. It's the judgment they face, not just housing, that holds them back. Here is 18-year-old Rex sharing their personal experience with homelessness and finding support through YST.
I feel like there's a stigma about, being homeless. Like everybody who's homeless is on drugs, or like it's their fault. They should have made better life choices, stuff like that. I was 17 when I became homeless. I was failed by my parents. Yeah, I could have made some better choices, but I was still a kid. It's not always just drugs or something like that. Sometimes you're failed by the system. I was fortunate enough never have to spend a night on the streets, but there's definitely been more than a couple of times where I didn't know where I was going to be for a night. One specific example that stands out, and one of the times I was very grateful for YST as well. I had just gotten out of Parkside Psychiatric Hospital, and I had been, couch surfing. I was staying with a friend. Less than 2 hours after getting out of the hospital, I was kicked out. Told I had to find another place to stay. It was like 11 o'clock at night. Nothing was open. Walked down to a Quick Trip and was like, I need a safe place. And I think I was there until almost 3 a.m. until I was able to get to a shelter.
If it wasn't for YST, Rex says their circumstances could be very different.
Honestly, there's a good chance I wouldn't be here. Not even just for like physical resources, emotional resources. Like it took a very, very big toll on my mental health. Like it was hard. But I got emotional help, and I was able to also get counseling up until I turned 18 when I transferred to Family and Children's. So I wouldn't be here. A lot of times, especially if you can't work, there's so much time to think. And, you can either turn those thoughts into good, or you can ruminate and spiral. And I've done both. Definitely the area that's helped me the most has been the station. They're kind of just like a little place for people to crash. When, if they don't have a safe place to sleep, they can just kind of take a nap, get hygiene kits, so like toothbrushes, shampoo, conditioner, stuff like that. Place to eat, get a warm meal, get snack packs to last me through the next day. And then, of course, when you first go in, you do like an intake and everything, and they put me into I think it's called the HMIS system, which put me on a housing list in order to get housing.
The number of young people on the housing wait list is high and has been rising for years. Olson explains a bit about what that process looks like.
We do operate on the community-wide wait list, and I don't actually know how many people total are on the wait list right now. However, the number of youth on that wait list, so 16 through 24, is something like 400. And it fluctuates, but it's like 400 youth. And that's just young people within the span of 8 years. So yeah, and that's gone up since I started here at YST a couple years ago. And I think it was in the 250 maybe. And so now we're sitting at 400. So that kind of highlights the real lack of options. Yeah, massive need. it could be anywhere for a few months. I know people who've been waiting for a few years, and that's adults too.
Right.
But it just totally depends on the number of available units. And luckily, getting youth housed has been a big focus in our community. We got a lot of funding as a community from the Youth Housing Demonstration Project, YHDP, a few years ago that has really helped prioritize youth in that. And so a lot of our community partners are working to get youth housed as well. I know Tulsa Day Center, Mental Health Association. So it's become a big focus for our community. But yeah, it's just we can't keep up. It's one of the hardest parts of the work is to have to wait and tell a kid that they've got to wait for housing.
While many young people spend weeks or months on the housing waitlist, they quickly discover that YST provides something equally important, a welcoming community. Here's Rex.
Something that immediately stood out to me when I went to the station was, I saw people that looked like me. Even stuff as simple as they introduced themselves with their name and their pronouns. That immediately told me hey, this is a safe place.
Rex's experience reflects one of many sides to youth homelessness in Tulsa. 18-year-old Kai's story is very different, but like Rex, believes there is still a lot that needs to change in the social climate surrounding both homelessness and queer identity.
I just wish people would quit making so many assumptions and leading with fear and leading with anger rather than genuine curiosity, because a lot of people who are anti-trans have never talked to a trans person. If someone is trans and they're homeless and you are going to look at them some type of way and view them some type of way because they're trans, why? There are bigger fish to fry. They are going through one of the worst things imaginable that someone could go through, I would say. Even when I was homeless, I still had my family. We were safe. We had food. We had a form of shelter that wasn't constantly endangered by police and the government. So I had it pretty good compared to the standard. So to know that queer youth are going through not only homelessness, but also the bigotry of just society, breaks my heart, because their life is already so hard. And there are people who would actively make it harder just because they're trans and just because they don't follow what they believe in, which is just kind of silly to me, I would say. Don't assume people's backgrounds. Don't assume where they've come from. Don't assume that they are doing any sort of things or are any type of way just because they're homeless. Homelessness is very nuanced, and there are a plethora of different reasons why people are homeless. Sometimes it does have to do with mental health, and sometimes it does have to do with drug addiction. Or sometimes it's just that a family has fallen on hard times and had to get away. Sometimes it's because they were kicked out. You can't really assume these things. And there are countless people I've met that are so volatile and hostile towards homeless people because they don't really have the perspective to see that there are so many different reasons it could be. I've heard so many people say so many wretched things and act like that homeless people are subhuman when they're just people.
For Focus, Black Oklahoma, I'm Anna Wilson in Tulsa.
You're listening to Focus, Black Oklahoma. Would you like to pitch a story to FBO?
Or work with us as a correspondent?
Please email us at contact@focusblackoklahoma.com.
Or call 918-807-3886. College football has entered a new era, one where name, image, and likeness deals have changed the business of the game. But for Black athletes playing on predominantly white campuses, the NIL era brings both opportunity and complication. FBO's Phil Childs shares the stories of two former college football athletes who unpack the realities behind the headlines.
With the college football playoff championship here, and the spotlight shining brighter than ever, I wanted to pull back the curtain a little bit, because what fans see on Saturdays is only the finished product. The story comes from two former college football players who lived it. Jared Williams, a defensive lineman from Cedar Hill, Texas, who played at the University of Houston before transferring to Miami, where he also earned his master's degree. And Tyler Natey, a running back from Euless, Texas, who attended Indiana University. Two different paths, two different programs, same grind. And the first thing both of them told me, fans don't see the work. Jarrett put it simply,
just the off-season work that we put in, waking up at 6 a.m. for workouts, and then even during, fall camp, just countless hours, that we put in like hard work and dedication to get to moments like they're in right now.
Tyler said it like this.
I would say the effort. I mean, the amount of extra stuff you have to do on a day-to-day basis. I mean, like waking up from 3 a.m., not getting home until 9, 10 p.m., and it gets tough. Fans don't understand like all the hard work. And most of the days it's strictly football, You spend a couple hours going through school and stuff like that. But after you're done with your classes, like, and you have that free time, like you're at the stadium, in meeting rooms, one-on-ones with coaches. Like, if you're not in school, you're in that football facility.
That's the part nobody posts on Instagram. That's the life. Now, both of these guys experience college football in different ways, especially as black athletes on predominantly white campuses. Tyler played at Indiana, a predominantly white institution, or PWI.
From my experience, like, it was fun, man. Like, everybody was welcoming. Like, all the other sports, like, we really bonded with each other. Like, man, I couldn't tell you how many times, man, we would go to the baseball house and just hang out.
And that's real, because being a black athlete on campus means walking a fine line between opportunity and being used. Jared's experience at Miami was different.
Miami, they were very like supportive of like the football program. Like, even like the city was too. The city didn't really have, a professional football team or a baseball team that was really doing well. So everyone would look at the U.
But what made Jared's story special is where it started. He came out of Cedar Hill, a powerhouse high school, and still only had one Division I offer. One.
I would say just grind, put your head down and grind.
And for 3 years, he waited. Then in his 4th year, everything changed. He became an all-conference player and suddenly had offers from almost every conference in the country. That's the part kids need to hear. Just because it's not your time yet doesn't mean it's not coming.
Just make the most of like the opportunity that you get, because, so they're very slim, and just make sure, you go out there and do the best of your ability whenever your number's called.
Now let's talk about today's college football. Name, image, and likeness, or NIL. Transfer portal, money everywhere. Here's Jared.
It's about time that, college athletes are getting rightfully paid, because whenever I was in the portal, that wasn't a thing.
But Tyler had a different warning.
Well, see, that's the thing. Just because you're getting paid, don't mean you're professional, right?
He went even further.
Because it also translates to your character, right? Because if I don't want a player who's been to 4 or 5 schools in his 4 or 5 year career, right, in college, right? I want a guy who's, loyal. He may have changed school one time, right? I can accept that, but he changed school for a specific reason, right? And that's my guy.
That's a conversation nobody wants to have, but NFL teams absolutely are. So what's the advice for Oklahoma kids choosing between a big-name school and a developmental program? Jared didn't hesitate.
Definitely the program that truly develops, because I know now, like, they see like the NIL and everything like that and the numbers, like that's great. I would say find somewhere where the coaches are going to treat you like family. They're always going to look out for you. It feels like home. You just don't want to go to a place where, obviously their name is big and they just have you as a number on their depth chart.
And Tyler echoed it in a different way.
It depends on the pitch, because if the big school is saying, we want you to come here, I mean, you obviously have some talent, right? Now, how hard are you willing to work to be able to get that starting position for you to be able to play at that big school? Are you able to do extra work? Are you able to, go crazy, like sacrifice?
He said something that really stuck with me.
What amazes me is now you have students who are in school, 6, 7, 8. I mean, there was some kids who were in college for 9 years, right, with 1 degree, and it just makes no sense. But you have to be a student first, right? Because if football doesn't work out, you have to be able to, articulate yourself in certain situations.
Football ends, life doesn't. Jared played during COVID and said it was a unique experience. Daily symptom checks, constant testing, 2 weeks out if you tested positive.
It was just a different way of, playing football.
And if you've ever had your season interrupted, you know how hard it is to get your rhythm back. But maybe the most important thing that was covered was mental health. Here's Jared.
Making sure that your mental is 100% okay and you are, that you have somebody to talk to, like an outlet.
And that matters, especially now when college athletes are dealing with money, pressure, family expectations, social media, and performance all at once. So if you're a young Black athlete in Oklahoma listening to this, here's the message. Put your head down and grind. Be patient. Choose development over hype. Protect your mental. And remember, this is bigger than football, because like both of these guys have shared, the grind will show itself eventually. For Focus, Black Oklahoma, I'm Phil Childs in Dallas, Texas.
Black and white together. Black and white
In part 2 of Sondra Slade's story on the unveiling of Clara Luper statue in downtown Oklahoma City, she gets personal with Marilyn Luper Hildreth, Luper's daughter and one of the original 13 sit-inners. She also gained some insight from sculptor Elliot Schwartz about his process, challenges faced, and what this project means to him.
I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know what to do. I know that if my mother was here, my mother would say, who would have thought it? That a little girl from Hoffman, Oklahoma, in Ofusky County, would have a statue on the main street of Oklahoma City. I'm excited, I'm thrilled, I'm honored.
That was Marilyn Luper Hildreth, the daughter of Clara Luper, as well as a sit-in participant as a 10-year-old. Was she afraid? What was she feeling in the days following the sit-in at Kat's drugstore?
But you know what? I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to make a difference by sitting in. Because that meant so much to young people. They gave them other kids courage to go into their communities and make a statement. I was not afraid then, but then as the demonstrations went on, and when people spat on us and kicked us and started talking about my national heritage and didn't even know my name, I felt some kind of way. But I learned, and it was part of the development process of the civil rights movement, as old as time itself, turn the other cheek, do good to those that do evil to you. So we've kept that philosophy. And most of the kids involved in the civil rights movement have the same philosophy. They can hang in there, and they have tough skin. You have to do a lot to antagonize, because we can hang in there with you.
The Midwest is the center of the sit-ins. You will read a lot about February the 1st, 1960 at Woolworth's in North Carolina. However, the first sit-in was at Dockham Drugstore in Wichita in July 1958. The second sit-in that is rarely known is the Cat's Drug Counter in OKC with Miss Luper and the children, August 1958. Today was a declaration for Oklahoma.
I feel good because I often wonder why that Oklahoma did not get its recognition for the civil rights movement. And I came to the realization is that it was because we did not have the violence that other cities have, or the water hose that other cities have. Now, when the guy threw the chimpanzee on me, I kind of had a different kind of feeling. See, what you have to realize that most of the kids that were involved in the civil rights movement are called the have-not kids. Have not money, have not a two-family parent home, have nothing but nerve and a hope to change the system.
Many school students were in attendance at the ceremony, including 2 groups of young children who made presentations and sang songs, in addition to adult former students of Mrs. Luper. These groups were either taught directly by her mother or were influenced by Luper's prolific teachings.
I feel good. I'm just glad that God gave me the opportunity to have her as a mother. Unless we understand and know our history, we can't understand and deal with our future. Because so often, because of the fact that they've taken our history out of the classroom and out of the history books, you give kids nothing to believe in. And they don't understand that they can take anything and go any places and dream dreams that we never dreamed.
Does any particular moment stand out to you as you look around today?
There's so many, and seeing so many people that were in the city movement. My heart is just filled with joy. And I think how my mother would embrace this moment. And as I was talking today, I looked over and it looks like she was looking directly at me in my eyes. And she said, "It's okay, go Marilyn."
The statue is a 4-ton, 16-foot bronze lunch counter with 15 life-size bronze figures that represent Mrs. Luper, the 13 original members of the Youth Council, and an employee of the drugstore. Elliot Schwartz, president of the Brooklyn, New York-based studio EIS, was responsible for getting the sculptors together, as well as making sure all facets of the tremendous project came together.
Well, we were asked if we would do the commission by Ed White, who's a sculptor who was unable to do it. And we have a history of doing civil rights projects, many of them, many bronze projects. And this was an amazing story and a fantastic project for our studio and very challenging. So we took it on. We came out here, we met everyone. We did lots and lots of research and sculpture studies, and over a several year period created the sculpture and worked very closely with Marilyn Luper and some of the other sit-ins and John Kennedy, and we spent a bit of time in Oklahoma City. And it was also unusual in that it had this very large construction of the lunch counter. That's something we've never done. Okay. And historically, it's a very, very important project. And everyone most of the sit-inners are still with us. So it has special meaning. We were trying to reproduce the sculpture as accurately as possible. There is a photo from 1958 of Katz's. And there are very few photos of that event. People didn't have cameras. Press came late. And then in trying to create portraits of all of the children, there's very little documentary material available. So it was very hard to basically kind of create what they all looked like as youngsters during that period. Okay. We had good photos of Clara Luper, and we had a pretty good photo of the lunch counter, but also trying to create the right expressions and emotions and layout of the figurative standing sculptures in relation to the lunch counter was a bit of a challenge, but that was done, with Marilyn.
Edward Joseph Dwight Jr. is an American sculptor, author, retired test pilot, and astronaut. Dwight owns and operates Ed Dwight Studios based in Denver. Dwight has been recognized for his innovative use of negative space in sculpting. Each of his pieces depict Black Americans and civil rights activists, with a focus on themes of slavery, emancipation, and post-Reconstruction. My mother, Barbara Stedham of Tulsa, was in attendance for this historic event. She attended the 1963 March in Washington when she was 17 and experienced Oklahoma's segregation firsthand.
I met Miss Clara Luper back in the early 60s when the civil rights movement was starting and integration was the name of the future back then. And again, I belong to the NAACP. We were having different meetings in order for us to know how to go into a facility, whether it was a restaurant or library, to integrate those different buildings. It was a hard time because you did have people not wanting you to come to the facilities and also drink water from the same fountain. We did experience that. We did experience the words colored being marked on different things. So it was a time of great experience. I enjoyed today's unveiling of Clara Luper and the 13. The statues were really marvelous. The eyes were so revealing. And what I mean by revealing, it actually took me to heart when I looked into the little boy's eyes, and he actually seemed like he was staring right at me. That really amazed me. And the other statues were like real life. And I think all of the people that attended today really enjoyed it. And the people that have made it happen were all mentioned, and I was really glad of the different participations in getting these statues unveiled today.
This piece of civil rights history, of Oklahoma history, took countless hours of planning, meetings, and people working together. Please take some time to visit the statues. Stare into the eyes of the children that boldly took direction to change an unjust situation. Walk up to the counter, stand for a moment, and think about the hate and abuse those children endured for equal rights. Smile at Mrs. Luper's statue and let her know you appreciate all that she has done. Those kids sat so that we could walk with our heads held high, all of us. For Focus Black Oklahoma, I'm Sondra Slade in Oklahoma City.
Growing up, the sound of NPR filled our home like morning sunlight. Public radio wasn't just background noise, it was how we stayed connected to the world. My mother listened for the facts, the music, the voices that sounded like us, and the ones that didn't. Before Tiny Desk ever hit YouTube, NPR was where I discovered new artists who would become the soundtrack of my life. Their interviews, their lyrics, their stories felt deeply personal. That's why Focus, Black Oklahoma, matters to me. It reminds me how powerful Black and brown storytelling can be. We deserve to hear our stories in our voices with our context. My name is Zaakirah Nayal Muhammad, and I am a media correspondent, podcaster, and TEDx speaker.
Focus, Black Oklahoma is produced in partnership with KOSU Radio and Tri-City Collective. Additional support is provided by the Commemoration Fund and Press Forward. Our theme music is by Moffat Music. Focus Black Oklahoma's executive producers are Quresh Ali Lansana and Bracken Clark. Our associate producers are Jesse Ulrich and Naomi Agnew. Our production interns are Alexander Evans, Jess Grimes, Roma Carter, and Anna Wilson.
You can visit us online at kosu.org or focusblackoklahoma.com and on YouTube at Tri-City Collective OK. You can follow us on Instagram at FocusBlackOK and on Facebook at facebook.com/FocusBlackOK.com. You can hear Focus Black Oklahoma on demand at kosu.org, the NPR app, npr.org, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Did you know KOSU accepts vehicles as a form of support? You get a tax deduction, and we'll take care of the rest. Visit kosu.org or call 855-277-2346.
Oklahoma City is pretty big. Take it from Mayor David Holt.
The city limits of Oklahoma City clock in at 620 square miles. That means we are the size of 8 Cleveland, Ohios. Washington, D.C., yeah, we could take 10 of those. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we're 11 Pittsburghs.
Luckily, KOSU's OKC Guide is here to break it all down, district by district. Head to kosu.org/OKC Guide to check it out.